This is the ICT podcast. We talk to people who do difficult things at the highest level, changing lives. We talk to entrepreneurs because they don't know how to quit. They always get the job done. These people are going to influence your life. They're going to make your life better. That is the Elsewhere Fest, the Elsewhere Festival and Music, the Elsewhere Music Festival and Conference. So I like Elsewhere Fest. What do you think, Jessie?
It's good. It's a great name.
It's a hell of a name. You guys took over downtown Wichita. In fact, St. Francis, which I think you guys made that sort of obviously on purpose, this main thoroughfare in Wichita, USA, from Douglas all the way to 3rd Street, and created brand new venues and utilized the Wave and Barleycorns. Elsewhere popped up in a place called Where Else, which is catty corner to the Wave. But what happened was Wichita just got a new burst of energy that I don't know if anybody came down and was expecting a regular music festival. What you found is everyone walking around had this incredible smile on their face because it was so different. Everything, the visual artists, which you guys collaborated with, that was really important to this, and I know you guys will share about that. Every little place that a week prior to the fest, it didn't look like that. And you saw that the dinosaurs that somebody grabbed and decided, I saw a picture on Instagram and there were just these silver, like pewter-looking dinosaurs, right? Well, and I was like, oh, those will be neat to look at. Then all of them were distributed throughout the festival and painted. And so anyway, the Elsewhere Festival was incredibly successful, but it's not just a music festival. And it was put on by Midtopia, and I have the co-founders of Midtopia, Jessie and Adam Hartke and Chase Koch. Tell us about what is Midtopia and how did we get to the Elsewhere Fest?
Midtopia is a...
What did I say? I said Midtopia.
You said
didn't I?
Midtopia.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you nailed it.
Sometimes I get, corrected because I say
It's
things
the end of the
incorrectly.
week. Sometimes details vacillate.
So you're co-founders of Midtopia.
Yeah.
Jessie, tell us what that is.
Midtopia is a think tank, and we work to create and implement new concepts for how the music industry can work. It's an incredibly important industry within our culture, right? We need music. Music is such an integral element of the human condition. And I feel like it's time to spice it up a little. So that's what we're here to do. And we're really excited to be able to do that here in Wichita.
Well, I know a big part of the reason that you guys wanted to do this is social change through music, social change through action. And Jessie, you're exactly right that music is part of our culture deeply. It has been as long as human beings have been around. I don't know that. I haven't seen any mixtapes from 100,000 years ago, but we know that music is inside us, right? So it's not just a music fest, though, right? I mean, you go, yeah, music's really important. And by the way, Adam and Jessie Hartke are synonymous with music in Wichita, USA. I mean, for the last 20 years, you guys have fueled the flames of bringing new acts and things that people maybe wouldn't want to or didn't know they even needed to go see. And that just exponentially has blown up. So yes, music is in us. It's part of our culture. What's the bigger meaning behind Elsewhere?
It's a space for our community to come together and just interact with one another, find a place to have a transformational experience, find a situation where they can grow, where they can, maybe explore some elements of who they are, who their community is, that they previously didn't have access to.
Exploring who you are, I think, is so important. And I think most people, that's kind of what I was really getting at with this, because I'm going to give you my own personal experience, because it's Lane 8 is playing on Saturday night, and I'm seriously having my own individual experience, which that's the part that's so cool about this, is we have thousands, by the way, over 12,000 people attended this concert, which is just, festival, because there were lots and lots of concerts. But Visually, I'm having this experience, and it is a full body experience. It's every sense. You feel the music. You obviously hear the music. You feel the vibe from all these other people. And then in that instance, almost like when you don't even know that you're in a dream, you wake up from that dream and you notice other people. You recognize, oh, wow, there's thousands of other individual experiences collaboratively happening at the same time. And then we connect. And it's that connection, I think, that is the most special part about anything in life. But certainly in this festival, certainly at Lane 8 that night, I just saw faces with energy and excitement. And what you just said, it's part of our culture and people connected. And if that was the goal of Elsewhere, that's exactly what you guys provided.
Thank you.
Can I hit on something you
Please
just said?
do.
Because I talked. You invited me on your podcast just before Elsewhere. We had a little 10-minute spot just to hopefully get people excited about it. And
I think I was responsible for 12,000. No, I'm kidding.
It's all you.
At least 10,000. But what you just spoke to in your experience in Lane 8 is something that, live music has always done for me. And in a word, it's unify. Right. And we talked about, God, wouldn't it be amazing if we could bring something to Wichita that built community in a new way that hadn't been done before. And the music is the only thing, at least that I've discovered, that can actually do that in the way that it does. Everybody knows all the division that we have, in our country, in the world. It's just we're in this divisive place. We had to stomach the presidential debates last night, and my goodness, right? If that wasn't a good example of division, I don't know what is, right? So music is the thing that I think what you experience at Lane 8, and the same thing that I do when I go to most concerts, is that everyone's there for that singular purpose of being on one wavelength together, and all that other crap goes by the wayside.
Yeah.
And it's like we can forget about who's a Republican or who's a Democrat, who believes in this, what color skin, it's just like we're here because we love music and it moves us in a certain way. And that's why I've been so passionate about music. And then you ask about one of the key differentiators of Elsewhere and bringing the social change thing. That's not an accident. We're not just trying to, let's see if we can get people connected in with addiction or, transformative models around education or juvenile justice. We're really experimenting with how do you bring these social change initiatives into the fabric of a festival in a meaningful way and in a way that hasn't been done before. And I think the reason why it's a good experiment with significant upside is because of what we were just talking about in your experience with Lane 8. It opens a musical experience, a powerful musical experience opens everyone's mind. It's like all that other stuff is gone. I'm in a positive mindset, and I'm going to open my mind to new opportunities and ways to either transform myself or maybe help other people at the same time. Right, and maybe we can get into some, some stories. Look, there was things that we could have done better. It was the first year, right? First experiment.
I think that's the part that people need to understand is that, and by the way, that's why it's like it birthed from nowhere. Because of how much you change the infrastructure, the visual, it really just felt like, wow, we're on a new town. And so anyone who's familiar with Wichita, which by the way, over 34 different states attended Elsewhere Fest. And so lots of people got to maybe experience Wichita, Kansas for the first time.
That's incredible.
It
right?
isn't. It is.
34 states.
And four countries.
I don't think we had a goal on that. We didn't really, we wanted to bring people from outside Wichita though.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the regional goal and to pull people in, and we're very intentional with the panelists, bringing them in from all over the country. But I think 34 states for sure exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, it was super.
By far.
Well, I was very okay with that stat. But I do want to clarify one thing you did say, Brandon. You said it seemed as if it just, our footprint birthed from nothing. I will say there were a number of the team that worked on this. did amazing work in such a short amount of time. And that was the look we wanted. We didn't want people to see like, wow, that really seemed like a lot of hard work. We wanted it to be this like inspirational moment for our community. And so, yeah, a lot of people, especially I think something that I'm very proud of is it's people from it was Wichitans. The bulk of the people who worked on this were Wichitans. Yes. And I tend to say that our city has a little bit of an ego issue, right? That we don't believe in ourselves always, right? We don't always believe in our capabilities. And I was very excited to see that we were able to showcase what we can do, especially in an industry that is generally disregarded. People don't think of a vibrant music ecosystem within Wichita, Kansas. But I think we proved that wrong last week. We showcased the ability of our local talent, both, with the local musicians who played, the local visual artists who participated, and also all of the music workers who put in so much time and literal blood and sweat and tears to bring this footprint to life and give this gift to our community.
Well, I also think that's why so many people are so passionate about it, is because they have been disregarded for so long. So like people went above and beyond and were super committed to like bringing this vision to life. They felt a sense of purpose that they probably hadn't felt before or they've felt it but hadn't had the opportunity to express it in a meaningful way. So like seeing all of the visual artists and the production workers and just the whole the group of folks from Wichita like just bonding together. It was really neat seeing, there was 3 main production companies and a few other companies that were like the core of all of the production, but they were all local and they all worked together. And this is the first time they'd all worked together on a project before. But seeing that unity and what that presented to the community was really amazing and really awesome. I think it really sets the tone for future growth for sure.
We had a call this morning. It was our first recap of after last weekend and all the madness and everything. And Alex, who ran the operations, a lot of the food and everything, it's so much complexity to pull something like that off. I think he said it well. As we were talking about how awesome it was, to basically hit our goals in the first year. But, we threw the Michael Jordan quote out there about, it's like the reason he was successful is because he took so many shots and he missed the game-winning shot 26 times. And he said, because of those failures, that's why I succeed. And so our whole call this morning was focused on what could we have done better and what can we learn from that to inform future elsewhere festivals, whatever the event looks like in the future. And he quickly, kind of jumped on that and said, yeah, no, it's, there's the Michael Jordan analogy there around never resting on your laurels and like always figuring out like how you can get better. But he's like, it was basically all the players surrounding Jordan that made the Bulls successful and the coach and all that. And this is while Adam's wearing a Chicago Bulls hat. It's kind of ironic.
I planned it. Yeah. I mean, if you grew up in the 90s, you were a Bulls fan, right? I mean, you couldn't.
Of course. No, I was the same way. I was a Jordan guy. But,
of course.
But when we were walking in here, you showed me a picture of a woman that was with your son.
Jessica Link,
Jessica.
who's an MMA professional fighter, and she worked the Elsewhere Festival beautifully.
So you showed me a picture. I'm like, that's her. And so we were talking about the leadership team that pulled this off, but then the staff and how this incredible like culture of bringing the community together, because we were so focused on that. We focused on customer obsession. That's staff, that's fans, that's artists, that's visual artists, and like how can we bring them a differentiated experience? And then, but it's one thing for the leadership team to think that. It's another thing for everyone on staff to actually have, deliver that experience to fans. And we were not perfect. We have so many ways to improve, to be clear. But Jessica, this example, because I spent a lot of time on the Where Else stage, just like looking around, going to some of those shows. I was at the same Lane 8 show. And so I saw her at Aoki, Sultan and Shepherd, and Lane 8 proactively go around with bottles of water and searching for people that looked like they were overheating or sweating too much, maybe had a little too much to drink, and made sure that they were taken care of. That's one little detail, but if we can do that consistently across every stage, like that's, I've never been to a festival that does that, right? So the intentionality, but that's why I'm just backing up what Jessie's saying here, and the culture of the staff and everyone that came together to pull this together. It's those kind of details, I think, on why Wichita and the feedback that we're getting, it was a head turner for them. Not only the energy, but just how people are treated down there. And it's different than most festivals.
Well, all of you have been to lots of different festivals, and there's things that you don't like about that. But to get to the unification of things, like what better unifies people than to have a great customer service experience, right? And it's not the most free thing. You're talking about, well, this and that. We all got budgets, right? But the one thing that there is no budget on is to be just kind. Or can I help you? What can I do for you? And you talked about the leadership team. The best part about a leader or leadership team or anything is that the rest of them buy in. The rest of us, the rest of the team, the rest of the bulls, they say, yeah, that. And then they do the best they can with their own unique ability, right? And so they each become leaders themselves, like Jessica did by saying, hey, they said give out free water, which that was actually cool when you saw up there how much stuff costs. And on the water, it was taped over and it said free. No, I mean, that was a huge thing. I think anybody who's been to a concert, and it's like, oh, man, I'm going to, $9, $10, $12 for a bottle of water that, I'm sure they got for, I don't even know what a bottle of water costs, but it's not that much. But that's a big thing for your concert goer. And again, the differentiator. So, and you felt that, I felt that with everybody around there, because some of the most fun things that I did was to run to different, it's a 3-block, 4-block area, and along the way, what are people talking about? And I'm sure you guys, did you experience that? Did you go mingle amongst the crowd?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot.
Yes. It was just the element that I took away the most was the joy. Yeah. It was just seeing joy on the faces of thousands of people. And that's always been my motivator with everything I do, is how can I make the world a bit more joyful? Right. We have enough elements that, go the opposite end of the spectrum. But that was the element I walked away with, is how there was joy present, and it was just unadulterated. People weren't, coming out with an agenda, trying to, get a specific outcome. People were there to be together, to experience the art, both, the visual and the musical art, and just be with their community. As the last few decades have definitely dismantled a lot of interactive community, in-person community. And then with COVID 4 years ago, that further, enforced these elements that are driving people to stay home. And just to see people out and about and interacting in a positive fashion, to see faces filled with joy, that was what I noticed the most and made me have joy.
It felt like there was a pressure valve that was released. And it was this energy, and it was all positive and happy. And a lot of people didn't even have words. They would just run up and hug you and then run off. And then that was it. And they just, this is so awesome. And they give you a hug and run off, and that was it, because they were running to see a show. But it was just when you get you have that good feeling and you get kind of tingly, it was like that, but for 2 days, and so the endorphin crash was hard on Sunday and Monday, but it was just elevated excitement and happiness and positivity that I'd personally never experienced that level of it before.
What Adam's saying here too, I don't know, one of my big messages, why I'm excited that you put us on this podcast and have this opportunity, is I just wanted to thank Wichita.
Yeah.
This is a huge thank you to this community for coming out. Nobody knew what they were getting into, let's be honest, right? And we could have done better in getting out there and really informing the community. This whole thing came together in the last 5 months. So, which is really, and that's a credit to Adam and Jessie and the team for being able to execute at that level in such a short period of time. But one of the drawbacks and one of the misses was really getting deep and having the time to get deep in the community, explaining what we're doing and why. Because you can do all the advertising you want on billboards. It's just another billboard.
That's right.
Yep.
It's about human to human touch. And it's really that hand-to-hand combat marketing that is really going to get people to understand why it's special and why it's different. So the fact that Wichita took a risk on us to come out and experience it and take a weekend to just say, yeah, I'm going to check this out. I have no idea. Could be a waste of my time, or it could be something really special. Like it's incredible. Like, I think the three of us are absolutely blown back by that, and the community jumping in with us on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, the attendees, but all the local businesses that participated and helped. I mean, we had panelists in from all over the country that would go and check out, and they were taking pictures at different local businesses or went to the Keeper of the Plains, and what they experienced from the local community was just that kindness and that like exuberance that they were there. And then a couple of the artists, Pup, they're from Canada, from stage, they had about 1,500, 2,000 people in the crowd. And they said, we're going to be honest with you. When we booked this, we thought it was going to suck, but we were like, hey, we'll give it a shot. And they're like, this is one of the best shows we played in a long time. And then they crowd surfed around, and Vince Staples said the same thing from stage. He was like, this is literally the best show I played all year.
Killer Mike even made a statement as he did our keynote speech of the conference. He said this was one of the smartest and most socially conscious festival he's seen. And for Killer Mike to make that statement was really incredible to hear that we can do something like this in Wichita. And as Chase said, the community likes it. The community showed up. I think, going back to our Wichita self-esteem issues, I think we've always thought that, we don't get those things here, but now we do. And not only do we get them, people come out. This is what our community needs.
And just a couple more, just like stories around artists. And I mean, and to Jesse's point, these are big time global Grammy winning artists that are saying, what is happening here? Yeah. Right. And so we had because we thought some would just like, okay, I'm checking a box. I'm playing this thing, I got paid to be on the stage. It's just another gig. Steve Aoki had 3 gigs that day. Okay. That day.
Yeah, he capped it off.
He played Houston, elsewhere. Came into Wichita, and then he did a late night show in Vegas.
Oh my!
I don't know how you can spin a set with that much energy for 6.5 hours in one day, but he did it. But anyway, so just a couple artist comments that I thought was pretty interesting. Talked about Killer Mike. That guy is he's an absolute legend, and we're from the Stand Together side, separate discussion, but we are very aligned with him on free speech and free expression. And he's probably the most articulate in the world on that topic, and one of the most important social change entrepreneurs, leaders carrying that message. And one of the things Killer Mike said as he went back to the airport, he's like, I remember Austin, Texas, right before South by Southwest was there, which is obviously there. It's one of the biggest conferences in the world. He said, Wichita feels like that. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
That's incredible,
yes.
Right? Toki Monsta, who she went on right before Steve Aoki, and I happened to be with Steve in his green room before, just like getting to know him, and he's just a special human. Separate discussion, but Toki Monsta came off the set. She said hello to Steve, and she had these just big eyes, and she looked at Steve, and I was sitting right there, and she's like, where are we? She's like, this is Wichita. It's just that was amazing out there. The way she felt the energy from the crowd. And she's like, have you even looked at this lineup? What we're participating in right now? And Steve's like, yeah, it's amazing. And Adam gets a tremendous amount of credit for that. But I think so many of the top artists, right, that have the biggest followings and everything, they were the ones that were so shocked by the design and the breadth and the variety of types of music. They're like, we haven't played a festival like this that has this kind of everything from hip hop to EDM, but the quality within those various like genres as well. So I don't even know if I told Adam and Jessie that, but that was a special moment
That's
for me
awesome. Yeah.
to have her come off stage and say that and just see the look on her face. Yeah. And that hyped Steve up, and then he went on stage and absolutely melted downtown
Melted.
Wichita.
Oh,
That's
gosh,
hilarious. You
it's
said that
crazy.
word. That's precisely the word I thought of when I was thinking.
So on the
was
let me
nuts.
just make a comment on the Steve Aoki set, because I was in the crowd and then I went behind the stage and I tried to get every vantage point because I've never seen anything like that in Wichita, Kansas. And my takeaway, like looking from like Steve's vantage point, I was like, this is Wichita dancing their asses off. And I've never seen a ball of energy quite like that in one place, anywhere close to Wichita, right? And that was just like, that was one of the moments that I'll never forget, because I've always known that like Wichita had that in them. And I don't know who said it, but it was like this release. You said it, Adam.
Yeah,
it's like this release that's been there. It's like, but I need permission to go like blow up and have this great time. And for what Steve Aoki's magic and how to do that with anyone, I don't care what age you are, if you're a little kid or if you're, a senior citizen, you are headbanging to that stuff. It was absolutely insane. So anyway, Wichita dancing, that was like one of my big takeaways.
You don't critique my dancing style, but I was just, moving with the music, and I thought, hey. But that's the thing is, like, when you're kind of like, I've never been to a music festival like this. Yeah. So here's the thing I want to talk about. First of all, you got to take risk. Wichita took a risk on you. You guys took a massive risk. Massive risk. And you have to have massive risks to have the payoff that you guys are talking about right now. So I'm glad you didn't do any pre-press, because now I get to do it. No, but I'm glad you didn't do that ahead of time, because it sets the expectation rather than just boom, let's go participate in this. And then everybody gets to, again, have their individual experience with what that felt like. The other thing that I think is really cool is your banging lineup. Again, Steve Aoki is Killer Mike. These are massive bands. Masane is that's who I saw first on Friday, which great. What a way to set the tone, man. Like phenomenal. But the point is, you've got all these acts that are all over the world, all over the United States, all over this region. And they're working together. And Chase, the story you just told when she came off stage and said, Steve, she wasn't like, oh, we're competitors. That's not the thing that goes on here. There's no, I'm trying to outdo you. It's I'm doing me, and maybe that inspires you, which if you want division and divisiveness and anything else to go away, to disappear, to melt, you just go, I want to see somebody else perform at the highest level, and then I want to be inspired by that, not try to bury them, because that's what happens with, and you were talking about, there's a this or a that binary. When there's only two choices, the only thing you can do is say that it's finite and there's only this much, and therefore I got to take as much as I can from you before you take it from me. That's the antithesis of what Elsewhere is. Every aspect of it, from the music, which, by the way, this was what was really cool to me. I took my 8-year-old and a lot of our other friends who have young kids, 11, 4, on Saturday afternoon to enjoy. And by the way, they heard some language, call us an explicit, and they laugh and giggle, but it was like, we want them to come see what this is about, And the Wave Outdoors, Rudy Love is playing with, come on. Who was Rudy playing with that day? It was
D-Smoke.
Yes, with D-Smoke. And it was
great.
amazing.
Yeah,
what
it was such a good set.
That was a phenomenal set. And again, I'd never heard them play. I knew who Rudy was, so I was like, we're staying. But they just lit it up. And D-Smoke was awesome. And these kids were rocking. And then they went in and saw a completely different show on the inside at the Wave with, I wrote them down. Help me out. Come on, Adam and Jessie.
That was
the ladies with the guitars. She had it was like punk, Oh, come on.
Bad, not good.
No,
that
that was later on.
Was it Keo and them?
Yes, Keo and them. That's exactly right. And they were fantastic, but the antithesis of their kinds of music, their genres of music, and to see these kids get excited about it, this is a human experience, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the part that I think is the most beautiful about what you guys took a risk on and just, you nailed it. You nailed it, and I didn't even know what it was.
Can I give one more detail?
Please, give a lot
because
more.
it's like unifying the community and like building new communities. So one of the things that I thought was one of the coolest things about the whole deal was the art, and really like mix it up in downtown Wichita. And kudos to the team that put together the Where Else stage. Right, the design of that I thought was incredible.
Which popped up in 5 days.
Yeah, popped up in 5 days on an empty parking lot, and with all the containers surrounding it, felt nice. Even though it was big, it held 4,000 or 5,000 people, but it was really cozy. And then
very intimate. The
magic of the sound and the lights and the lasers and the LED that was really world class. The team that put that together.
Hey, there was a guy there before. It was in between sets, and someone who clearly had been to a festival that had lasers like that, and they're like, dude, those are like the TK421s.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, what's that? And he's like, no, those are amazing. And there's a lot of them, dude.
The gearheads were geeking out big time.
I was going to say, was that Chase you were talking to?
Hey, by the way, that was the community I was talking about.
That was what's fun, because then there's me, and I'm like, cool. And so when I heard Lane 8 later, I'm like, those are amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, so the containers.
Yes.
Anyone that was at Where Else State, or actually, down St. Francis, saw the amazing graffiti.
Yes.
Graffiti is not for everyone. I thought it was absolutely spectacular.
Spot on, dude.
So tastefully done.
Yes.
And that is, again, Jessie said this before, but local graffiti artists. And what we heard from them was they all go do their own thing, right? They have their own approach and how they do graffiti art, but it brought them together. So now, hopefully Elsewhere had played a little part in bringing that community together. It's not only music, but it's art, it's social change, and all these communities are starting to take off, sub-communities, which is great, right? And then you have all these Venn diagrams of how they overlap. And so again, whether it's Steve Aoki melting your face at the Where Else Fest with his unreal set, or the art, if you appreciate that, and bringing that whole crew together and that community, those are the fun stories. And who knows what will happen as a result of that? Maybe they start something else.
Yeah, at its core, that's what Elsewhere is all about, is bringing people together to work on something that benefits a greater good, right? And,
absolutely.
And everybody did that with this, and it was so amazing to see it come to fruition. I think that's part of the energy that we felt, was that so many people had poured their heart and soul into this that it really showed, and really people recognized that in this, and they recognized their own self in it and what they can contribute to, the greater good. And so, I think it really, again, it really helps set the tone for everything.
I think people in our community felt supported in a way that they historically haven't. And when a person feels supported, they grow and they can do more good for their overall community, for the world around them. So I'm so excited to see, what are the ripple effects going to be from this within our overall community? As Chase mentioned, so the graffiti artists got to work together in a way that they hadn't before. So what's gonna bloom out of those relationships, and then what's gonna bloom out of what comes out of that, and so on and so forth. So I think I'm so excited to see how this changes all of Wichita, not just the music community or the visual arts community. This is gonna just totally transform so many elements of Wichita.
Yeah, because we know what's gonna happen again. Sorry.
I was going to say something that really spoke to me was I was down talking to one of the graffiti artists as they were painting, and he said, this is one of the first times I've been able to paint in broad daylight without fear of being arrested.
Wow.
And he's a brilliant artist.
Wow,
he was putting this mural up, and I was like, God, why are you not able to do this professionally? He's a brilliant artist. And so that comment alone, I was like, this is really cool that you have this, but like, how do we build on that, you know? And like, how are we more inclusive in our own community to like, you know, bring people in and let them express themselves, you know?
So I was trying to like figure out on Instagram, how do I capture like my own personal experience at Elsewhere? You know, we all have our own pictures and videos or whatever. And you're like, I want to like represent like the emotions that I felt and what it meant to me. And so, you know, I put this minute, you know, reel together. And then, you know, in the caption, it's like, okay, how do you put this in 3 sentences? Just impossible to do, right? I mean, you know, we could talk all day about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not very tech savvy. But anyway,
I don't even think people use hashtags anymore.
Yeah, probably not. I don't know. But what the thing that I came up with is like, this is not just a festival. Like it's not, but what is it? Right? It's Elsewhere. It's all these things. It's social change. It's local music. It's global music. It's visual arts. It's graffiti community coming. Like it's all these things. But the word that came to me was movement. This isn't a festival. This is a movement, and movements start from the bottom up, right? And like music is such a key part of the catalyst for that. Like any great movement in society, you know, like Bob Dylan had a song for it, Bob Marley, Marvin Gaye, Rage Against the Machine. Like all this stuff is about things that they want to see change. So Eddie Vedder was incredible at this, right? The things he went through in his life, and he poured his anger from his childhood into music. That's why everyone loves it, and they rally around it because they see their own story through what Eddie is saying, right? And like these songs or these albums that have come over the course of history, they drive change, and they drive movements, and that's why whether it's the graffiti artist community, it's like there could be a bottom up, you know, spontaneous order driven movement just based on that and bringing people together. I'm hoping that because of the Phoenix, so 2 other highlights for me on the social change side. And I wish more people, I think this is one of the things that we're going to work on for the future, is that how do we really get creative and thoughtful on how all the attendees of Elsewhere can get tied into the issue that they care most about. Right? And we had a pretty broad portfolio of things there. We had addiction and mental health. We had transforming education with new models. We had juvenile justice, you know, with Cafe Momentum. We had fire on free speech. So we had a really broad, you know, kind of offering. But how do you get that really, you know, enmeshed into the festival? We have things to work on there. But two things that I thought were highlights for me around the social, just overall highlights, was the Phoenix Block Party and the attendance at, you know, the local Phoenix here, the gym. And for those of you that don't know what that is,
on First Street.
On First Street, it's really, you just got to check out the model. And go into this gym. What they figured out was the power of exercise plus the power of community gets incredible results, best results of any addiction program in the world. Relapse rates sub 10%, which is totally disruptive in a positive way.
Wow.
And so we have one, and again, that was a community movement and getting people together to go build that on a model that was proven and worked. And why don't we have that in our backyard? Everyone has a friend, a family member, a coworker, a band member, someone in their crew that's struggling with addiction. And there's a solution right down the street. All you have to do is try, right? So anyway, a block party that was totally jam-packed because more people wanted to learn about the Phoenix. That was incredible. And then I would say Cafe Momentum that Thrive and and my friend John Rolfe got involved with to basically flip Homegrown here downtown into a pop-up Cafe Momentum. that was started in Dallas. That's all around giving kids that are struggling in life and that don't have as much opportunity, and if they find themselves in trouble and in the juvie system and can't keep, they continue to be in that cycle, the power of a restaurant and a job and learning something to where they can get out of that destructive cycle and actually, apply the skills and have someone believe in them, like Chad Hauser from Cafe Momentum. But to bring that to Wichita and do it in a way where we don't necessarily have to build our own Cafe Momentum. We have, if we have partners like John Rolfe and the Thrive Group to say, hey, let's do a takeover of the restaurant, bring all these kids in and give them a chance. I was back in the kitchen with them and Killer Mike. It was mind-blowing. Wow. And a big shout out to Killer Mike to spend his whole afternoon just talking to these kids and showing them I believe in you, and I'm here to help, and you have dreams too, and anything is really possible, and just to see all that happen, man, it's incredible. So anyway, those were the moments to me the music was incredible, but how we take those and get more people exposed to them. On that's where we can transform our own lives by being involved in that. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
That Killer Mike was transformed. I think that's one of the reasons why he said he was so excited about Wichita. He got a full broad experience. It was a great show, good energy or whatever.
It's way
but
beyond.
He got to see the culture of this community. He got to experience Cafe Momentum. He got to help kids, and that's not a typical show, right? I mean, that's and so I'm sure he feels some sort of personal transformation going through that, right? So anyway, I can go on and on, but those two examples are really exciting and just experiments for the future of what we're going to do.
What do you think about, for instance, Cafe Momentum? If we're going to have a Cafe Momentum sponsored show, like NASCAR Park, which was right next to where the pop-up was for Cafe Momentum. So whatever shows are going on there that afternoon, and people go, what's the Cafe Momentum? What's right there? And does that make sense to sort of have the umbrella of this particular area is sponsored by, so to speak. It's sponsored by sounds corny, but
love to have a Cafe Momentum cafe where people can actually go in and eat and learn about it, as part of the festival. I mean,
meet the kids
and see them in action, and really have that Killer Mike experience where they understand what's actually happening. I think that's when we talk about social change, that's a very important part is you can say it or you can see it in action. Yeah. And when you see it in action, that's when people are like, oh, I get it now, and it clicks for them.
Yeah.
And that's our goal with incorporating social change organizations, is that people can experience it. I don't want it to be an afterthought. I don't want it to just be a booth that people walk by because it's it's a token gesture. I want it to be something that can truly be experienced by all parties involved, and that people feel like they can access it, that they can apply it to their own lives or someone that they care about who might need that specific organization. How can it be truly influential, not just an afterthought?
Well, Jessie, like you were talking about that, if Wichita's lack there of ego about things, which I think is going away. We've been doing this conversation for a long time because we have so many incredible stories to share around here. People stopped waiting for someone to do something.
Yep.
Okay? And so the more that happens, the more Chase, you were talking about the concentric circles. The bubble machine is how I see how life is going, right? Because bubbles they take their own way because they're shaped differently and the wind goes this way. And sometimes they all connect to each other and make a bigger bubble. And they don't know, I didn't know you before. And that's what's happening with all these people that you brought to connect, to collide with each other at elsewhere. So there was something you were saying, Jessie, and of course I get so excited I go off on a tangent.
She was saying that next year we need to have a bubble machine.
Yes, we need to have a bubble machine,
a literal bubble machine.
But it requires
that's the biggest.
whether we like it or not, we talk about you guys took a huge risk. Each person who says I'm going to go try the Phoenix because I know I'm struggling with addiction or I have a friend, that takes risk. I'm going to risk putting myself out there, but It's better to do that than to not, right? And for some reason, we have this failure mindset as opposed to that's just a temporary defeat. And there's people out here that part of the movement of people connecting are going to help us get to wherever we need to go. And we're all going to need it at one point or another. Fair enough?
Yes.
Yeah. And exactly, that's why we want to build community, because if you have a community around you who believes in you, it's easier to make those jumps, to take those moments of risk. If you know that you have support behind you, that's a much easier leap. And that's behind everything that we're doing, is how do we build a community where people do feel safe to make positive changes?
So
let's
Brandon,
talk.
real quick, let me give you one more example, because I got a text this morning from Scott Strode. He's the founder of the Phoenix.
Amazing guy.
And he said, this is from Keithy, who is staff at the local Phoenix here in Wichita. And she was at the 1 Million Strong tent. For those of listeners that don't know what 1 Million Strong is, it is a movement, the word I mentioned before, that started with partnership with the music industry. That we were, the Phoenix across the country was, let's say they were impacting thousands of lives, with the partnership from the music industry and some of the big, AEG and Live Nation, iHeartMedia, and artists like Marcus King that are all in on the Phoenix and like really partnering with them. That became a movement. And so the goal was 1 million strong, 1 million in this community by 2025. We're going to impact 1 million lives. I think that constitutes as is defined as a movement once you hit 1 million people, because then you start thinking about, the Phoenix could be part of the standard of care for our healthcare system, right? Because the results are there. It's not some top-down thing. This is a bottom-up, entrepreneur-driven model that was discovered by someone that was in the problem to begin with, right, with Scott. So anyway, this is from Scott this morning. So this is a real story that came out of elsewhere. This is from Keithy, that was at the 1 Million Strong tent. Some of you may have met her if you swung by that tent. She said, I had a great conversation with 2 women on the last day of Elsewhere. They sat at our table. One of them went to our bar to get a drink and found out we were sober, because they're doing mocktails, at this thing. When I checked in on them, they told me they had made a deal to stay sober, and the fact that our bar was sober was the sign to them. They mentioned how they are sober curious right now and wish they had friends that didn't want them to drink with them all the time. I told them about Wichita Space, and they were so excited. It felt like I gave them a little hope that there's more. There is more to sobriety out there. They downloaded the app, and they said they're going to check it out and come to the gym. So, that's 2 people, right? But it starts there.
Absolutely.
And then those 2 people tell 4 people. And then all of a sudden, maybe someone's life is saved because someone was at the end of their rope, and the Phoenix dragged them out of the ditch and got them in there, and exercise and that community became their savior, right? And transformed their life.
Yeah.
It's these stories are amazing, and we're just scratching the surface on this.
With that, I want people to understand how cool it is to go to a concert. There are so many people who stay away. Okay, so we were just talking about, look, if you're not going to participate, like one of my dear friends who's an awesome entrepreneur always says, you got to go somewhere to get somewhere. You got to go. This, we can all listen to Lane 8 and Sultan and Shepherd on our phones.
Doesn't sound as cool.
I would no, and the feeling is in there. But the point is, they sometimes, there's a reason. That's going to trigger that I was drinking, and that's what tipped it. And so for 10 years, I was on the party scene, and I can't go there anymore. Not so, because Elsewhere provided this opportunity for anyone who's ever struggled. You can go have the same amazing experience, your own individual experience with all of these incredible acts and the visual artists and the people and the energy. And then you go over and you have your own bar, which that's the story you just told. And there were so many people curious. That was an experience that I had. They're like, well, what is that? Our friend Askia Ahmad was wearing a 1 million.
Yeah.
It was a 1 million strong. It was a very cool shirt. It just had a 1 with lots of 1 millions on, and it was a black shirt, and everybody was asking about it. So I think all of these social change movements that you had there, people wanted to interact with them and said, what was that? And you can't help but not help. somebody else.
It normalizes it. I mean, what's somewhat sad about it is normalized to go to a show and drink. That is the normal thing to do. And if you don't, it's weird. But what having a tent like 1 Million Strong does is it normalizes not drinking. And it's okay if you don't. It's like we all do our own thing. And so, I mean, we don't drink. We went and got a mocktail. Ski was one of the sweaty hugs that I ate, 1,000 sweaty hugs. It was a great shirt. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to just have the optionality of like, I'm going to go grab a mocktail and it's delicious and I'm going to keep doing my thing, you know, and it's not, nobody's pressuring me to take a drink or do whatever, you know. So I think that it's that shift in culture too that helps drive, you know, beyond the, you know, saving a life. It also helps prevent the need to save a life potentially.
Well, Adam, you said that it's you're almost weird if you don't. Well, so that kind of describes this, you know, capture that someone has, because if you're part of something that's not healthy, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Chase, about there's this silly thing that everybody watched last night that, look, this is capture, guys, but you don't need to. You're an individual. You're stronger than that. Yeah. You know, you can participate in anything you want to. You don't have to be that person that says, I this is the first time that I've sprayed and made art in the daylight. Right. Well, maybe we change the mindset of the should be constabulatory government that says perhaps we should embrace our community and say, you know what, we got lots of walls that look like hell. A lot of blank walls. Can we entertain bringing you out, and then you're proud of that and you get to show people that, and it sparks fire in somebody else to say, I'm going to go do that with whatever it is that I want to do. But that's what's so cool about what you guys created with the social change side of Elsewhere, the movement that is Elsewhere. Because we all went there and got something a little bit different out of it, and we probably were all proposed with a thought that we hadn't had before, and we're all probably still thinking or wrangling with that thought. And I can't imagine anything better than having an experience like that you're still wrangling with. How can I be better as a result of what I just witnessed?
I mean, I think there's the we talked about it, right? The personal transformation. Like we talked about this and tried to be really deliberate in how we design it, and we had all these different variables across social change and visual arts and music. Is that, can we design this in a way where people go through a personal transformation and they discover something about themselves or an organization they want to be a part of? Maybe it's like, I want to go create another band. I'm so inspired. I want to start DJing. Whatever it is for that person, that they go through that personal transformation, and then in a positive way, they have more impact on the community, on their family, on their friends, or whatever, right? And it kind of it's another way to say it. It's a virtuous cycle, right? Because all this positivity goes back into the community. Then you impact 5-6 more people with positivity instead of negativity, and then it just ripples through the community. And hopefully it's an immeasurable impact. It's hard to put I hope we broke even on this festival. Like it's much bigger than that, right? It's really about driving, personal transformation of each individual, and then hopefully they go take that and do great things with it.
I lost track of how many people I talked to that said that it inspired them to do something different in their life, or that it changed their perspective on something in life. I was talking to a dear friend who's a brilliant musician and producer, and he has been on the grind working, and he said, "Hey, I need to start making music again." He's like, I realize that now. And that was a huge transformation for him. And he should be making music. There was another woman who was a critic of what we were doing early on. I got a text from her, a long, lengthy text about how she gets it now. And holy crap, I can't believe that happened in Wichita. And now I understand what's happening. And it's like, it was super transformational. She'd never felt anything like that. She'd been to tons of conferences in the industry. And now she's like moving forward with a lot of things. So anyway, but I mean, countless. They could spend a whole podcast talking about how people communicated, how it impacted them in a way that was way beyond just seeing a show.
Yeah, and it was even those who are fully invested in the music ecosystem. In Wichita, we had a dear friend who has been working so hard. It's got a great career within the music industry within Wichita, through a lot of really hard work over the last 20 years, and just came out. Suddenly I had this person behind me crying on me. And I
forgot about that. Yeah, he's crying. This is the 5th time I've cried today.
And it's not a crier, but it was this moment of transformation
So
to feel that we finally have unlocked the potential of the Wichita music ecosystem, that we're finally acknowledging the talent that has run so rampant in our community, but just has not necessarily had, that pressure valve release. Yeah. And so, it was transformational experiences for, as Adam was pointing out, people who have, who've historically been, making music and, got out of it for a variety of reasons. They're getting back in. People who, didn't necessarily see the benefit to elsewhere when we first announced it have come on board. And even those who have been a firm believer in the music ecosystem of our community, just all of those different variety of stakeholders were able to access a moment of transformation.
So we have a friend that a lot of, I'm sure the listeners will know this name, Gooding. If you look up Gooding Music, he's from Wichita, very successful musician, nationally, if not globally, acclaimed. And he spoke on one of the panels, but also took in all the music. He's like, man, this is the first one I actually haven't performed at, musically, and it was great to just actually sit back and enjoy and not have to perform. But I met with him afterwards. He said, because he's moved, he doesn't live in Wichita anymore. He goes, if this was happening when I was around, I never would have left Wichita. Seeing these capabilities, and I mean, Jessie, you and Adam can speak more to this, but that story with Gooding right there is why Midtopia exists. To create opportunity and unlock the potential and remove barriers to local artists that really want to make a contribution, not only to the community, but have a contribution motivated mindset and want to go do great things. We want to find those artists and musicians and remove those barriers for them, right? And that's why we're building here.
Well, can you talk about that specifically?
Yeah, Jessie,
go ahead, Jessie.
You and Adam are closest to it.
Yeah, Adam and I have been working together for 15 years. We actually started promoting shows about 2 weeks after we met. And so throughout those 15 years, we've seen a cycle play out of, we'll see, an artist or a music worker come on the scene, have incredible talent, have incredible drive, and hit a ceiling. And they either leave or they change trajectory. And it was heartbreaking, a number of instances, seeing this talent either, leaving the community because of lack of resources or just completely giving up on sharing that talent and that beauty with the world. And so that's the inspiration behind everything we do, is how can we create these pathways that allow for people to stay here, to stay in our community, to give back to this community, and to create beauty to inspire change.
Jessie, what was the mix of local artists that you selected here in Wichita? Adam, maybe this is because you put all this together, but relative to, bringing other artists in from outside of Wichita?
About 50-50.
Wow.
is what it was.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
72 bands.
Yep.
Right, and half of them were local.
Yeah.
Approximately,
yeah.
In that range, yeah.
Because we do have amazing musical and visual artists talent. And one of the things I think is most exciting about the music community in Wichita is, due to the fact that we have been overlooked, I think that's really allowed for a lot of amazing growth. People aren't concerned if they go play that show, is this agent going to be there? Is this manager going to be there? Do I have to play a certain way? Do I have to sound a certain way so that I can get signed? And people create for art's sake. I've called it we're a farm to table movement of music, right? It can be created and it can be consumed without, it turning into musical Velveeta.
Yeah, I mean, everything we do with Midtopia, definitely, I mean, we're based in Wichita, but it has more of a national and global perspective as well. Given the state of the current music industry and the challenges it's facing, we're not alone in this. The things that are happening here locally are happening in markets all over the country and all over the world. And so really, really the focus is on creating those alternative pathways for artists, music workers, just alternative business models as a whole for the industry, figuring out what are the next steps forward, and how are we going to overcome some of these really major challenges that are facing the community, especially on the independent and smaller level of the artists that are burgeoning and even selling 1,000 or 2,000 tickets. Like it's still barely sustainable, if at all. And that's from the artists, the venues, the workforce behind it, all of that. It's in a really tough situation right now. And
one of our biggest concerns is if we're seeing stability issues with emerging artists, how is that going to play out in 15 years? Right. If an emerging artist can't get a foothold, what does the overall industry trajectory look like?
And that ecosystem, right? Because it's changed so much, so dramatically. How does that ecosystem work? And how does it continue to work, and how does it thrive?
So if I hear, this is the way I hear it. So the wave right now was game changer, guys. It really was. And we saw that footprint expand dramatically for elsewhere. Is any chance that footprint could continue to expand?
I think the future is, it's wide open. I think we're going to just continue to conceptualize what can we give back to the community? How can we really build on this energy that we've seen grow, last weekend over the last few years, and how can we just give back? How can we grow? How can we build upon our creative community?
Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, one thing's for sure, we're going to continue to experiment, and don't know exactly what that entails, but we just made an investment together in a new experiment, right? Right down the street here. It was across from Where Else, and I'd be remiss if I didn't plug my own band,
Please.
But we played the closing party for all the staff. That's cool. You got to. For those of you that can't see, he's got he's a fanboy of Two Lot, and he's got the sticker on his.
I never thought I would put stickers on my. I always saw people do that, and I'm like, I'm never going to do that. Thank you, Sierra.
Hey, look, appreciate the support. But anyway, we did the closing party, which was also served as kind of a grand opening to Jam House right across the street. And so that was an incredible, one of my favorite moments of the festival was it was about 2:45 in the morning when Two Lot finally, it was after Lane 8, and we went across the street, and community supported us. It was at capacity in 12 minutes. And we played up close to a 2-hour set, but the end, bringing Adam and Jessie on stage and celebrating what they had pulled together, and basically all the leaders, all the operations, food, sound, legal, everyone that made it happen was in that room, and to be able to celebrate together, at least this first Elsewhere experience was pretty incredible. But we did it. This is my point on experimentation. We did it in a new venue. That was this old warehouse that we had a vision of, turning it into something that had value in Wichita. It's right in the middle of all this, and basically continue the growth of Midtopia, of unlocking potential for artists, but giving them a new, somewhat of a playground to jam, to record, to film, to create, and have a good sound system, a good lighting system, great video capabilities, to where it's kind of a one-stop shop on creation. And our hope is, we're still working through the model and exactly when it's going to fully open to the public, but it's probably going to be some sort of a membership model.
Yeah.
For those that really want to lean into this music, and then find other musicians that they want to play with, perform with. So my hope is that new bands will be created in there.
Yes.
And, because the problem is in any community of this size, and frankly, even in LA, you don't even have this capability of a jam house where you can go and you have everything at your fingertips, push of a button, just get your slot, get your time, get your people that you want to play with. Or if you're solo artist, I just want to meet other people I can jam with.
Absolutely.
It doesn't exist.
Wow.
And so instead of artists, jamming in their basement or whatever, or trying to figure out how to cobble things together, this is now a downtown capability and a community in and of itself for musicians to get involved in and see what happens. And look, this is an experiment too. We have no idea how it's going to unfold, what the model will look like. But we have an incredible guy, John Salem, who's, Wichita native, musician, business guy, and just an incredible human that is going to lead that effort and hopefully make that really successful and grow that over time. So what's the future? Don't know, but we're going to practice this idea of experimental discovery, and we're feeling energy over here. Maybe this is the next gap in the market to really make, Wichita go. Elsewhere was one of those experiments. This jam house is another one, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So will there be an Elsewhere next year?
Yes, there will be, but it will look different.
It's Elsewhere.
It's Elsewhere,
and then
right?
where else?
But
Where else would anyone want to be?
Exactly.
So, Brandon, I was I'm obsessed with the blogs and everything, and you learn so much by people's feedback, right?
Certainly.
And the great thing is, you guys jump in here and what you're hearing and what you're reading, but you know how people are on the web.
Yes.
Unabashed feedback, and they'll give it to you, between the eyes. But largely, it's 95% of what we've read has been overwhelmingly positive. And I printed one out here on Reddit, and I'll probably mess this up, but the name is I'm Just a Dumb Butt. So
That's definitely
wherever
Reddit.
you are out there, I'm just a dumb butt. Thank you for this long analysis of Elsewhere, and you were very clearly skeptical of what we were trying to do.
Yep.
But some of this feedback is gold, and I agree with you on some of this. The sound system is too loud on, and I love loud music, to be clear. But on Where Else stage, I felt at times like I've got earplugs in, and this bass is just too heavy.
It just rattles you.
Just too heavy. So I agree with you on that. He talks about, we were talking about how excited we were about the water and actually having that vision of free water. Some stages we did a good job on it. He said, outside of the wave, we did not, especially people that were up front and they didn't get access. So we've got things we need to fix, right? He also had a great idea here on what if you have a free trolley that goes up and down St. Francis. So it's not such a long walk between Barleycorns and the wave or whatever. This is all great. And so I would encourage anyone to, you can go on our website, Elsewhere Fest, whether it's Midtopia. Jessie, you would know the best way to get more feedback. The idea is feedback. Hopefully the criticism is constructive. Help us. Don't just bash, just, help us.
Yeah, please. We
how we
love
do better.
feedback. That's how we grow. Either at send emails to info@elsewhere.com or, you can DM us on our socials. But yes, please provide feedback. Constructive tends to be more helpful.
Is
yes.
it elsewhere.com or elsewherefest?
Oh, elsewherefest.com.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I will sleep this
elsewherefest.com.
weekend
No,
and then
that's fine.
be
I
a
wanna
little
make
more
sure-
functional.
That's the only reason I'm here, to get the plugs correct.
Yeah, and just to ease your mind, I'm just a dumb butt. There were a lot of stuff on that we had already made note of that's right. So we saw a lot of the same things that you did, and I loved it. I loved the read, and thought it was super thorough. I liked the bass personally because I like it when it feels like my guts are gonna pop out of my. But I could see how it'd be intense. So did my 17-year-old nephew, who was just smiling the whole time because he's like.
That's why I liked it the most.
He thought it was the coolest bass ever. He's super.
Yeah, we impressed our 17-year-old nephew.
So I have to say, one of the coolest. There's so many cool experiences, but you were there.
I was there.
My mom.
Oh,
my mom came, and I didn't know if she was going to come. She's a young woman. She's 79 years old.
she's spry.
And she is fit, and she likes to have a good time. She dances. She's the coolest woman on the planet. I'm a little biased, but I was like, Mom, my favorite DJ in the world is Lane 8. So if you can come out and see him, it's going to be 10:30, can you hang out with us? And she comes out there and experiences it with us, and just beaming from ear to ear, because she's been in Wichita her whole life, and she's like, never, I won't, she cusses like a sailor, so I won't tell you what she really said. But, she was like, never have I ever seen anything like this and felt, and you were there with us in that little area with all of our friends and family and stuff. And it's just like, my son Calvin got to come out and see some of Sultan and Shepherd. And that's what it's all. I mean, experiences with people that you love that you otherwise probably wouldn't have. I never imagined I could go to a raging EDM show with my mother, and that she would come. But I'll never forget that.
She's probably listening to it right now, driving down the street, maybe a little fast.
She went and put like 2 12s in her car so she could feel the bass.
I love the bass.
Hey, can I say that experimentation requires the search for truth, right? I mean, you have to, what you just read there about feedback, positive, negative, like it's constantly seeking and changing and seeking and changing and seeking and changing. Because if you're not doing that, then you're just trying to arrive somewhere. And that means that there's walls around it. Now there's rules around it. Now there's all of a sudden, it ain't a movement anymore.
It's bureaucracy.
So it's beautiful that you have this in you guys' heart, that Midtopia is saying, we want Elsewhere to be this living, breathing thing that will continue to encourage other people to take action.
Take action and show up and express your thought and contribute to that vision. I mean, I think that's the vital piece of it, is like, it's a free space that isn't bound by certain, bureaucratic restrictions of you have to do it this way. It's like, okay, this is how we've done it, but is there a better way to do it? And let's figure it out together how we can make it better. I mean, that's the whole thing with Elsewhere. And even the concept of Elsewhere, of, one of the definitions that we originally thought of when we were thinking of the name was, it's that place you go when you're discovering things, or like when you're playing music, maybe you're just jamming out with a band and you all discover the same thing at the same time together. It's kind of an out-of-body experience, right? And that's that Elsewhere that we seek. And that's really the kind of goal of all of this, is like, what is that Elsewhere and how do we discover it together?
Elsewherefest.com. Jessie and Adam Hartke, Chase Koch, co-founders, Midtopia. Go to @Midtopia across all social medias. Thank you guys for experimenting. Thank you for bringing Elsewhere right here to Wichita, USA. I am so grateful that I get to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the
Incredible
ICT
community.
podcast.
We love it here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We do love it here.
I
Thanks
wouldn't
for-
want to be anywhere else.
Absolutely not.
Thanks,
except
Brandon.
Elsewhere.
This is Elsewhere.
Make it great.